Hi folks, right now we're going to go ahead and create the ribs, these blue ribs for our slot car. They are part number 2 on our drawing, and they are what's going to be attached to the blue chassis that we created the other day. And they provide us holes for the axles to pass through, and they add stiffness to the model. The drawing we're going to create is going to look kind of like this. And I'm going to show you, kind of quickly go over how to put these together. The process is pretty simple. I'm going to actually delete everything I have here and start over, just so you can see how this works. So I've got my chassis, and we're going to add a sketch to the plane that we want that to put on. So if you look here, the outside edge of this rib, this outer face right here, is going to line up with the inner face of the wheel cutouts. So we're going to go ahead and put that sketch plane on this vertical plane. That is where we're going to create the rib, and it will start here, it'll be drawn here, and then projected to the right. We're going to need to take some of the existing geometry, which you can see is there. I can right click on the edge of the wheel well, and then right click on the edge of the rear wheel well. We now have lines on our sketch that we can use. And if I am over on the left hand side here, see I've got this eyeball and turn the chassis on and off so we can get it in and out of our view. For most of today, we're going to turn that off. We're going to go ahead and be creating this shape right here. Here's our wheel axle holes, in front and rear. The rear axle hole is lined up above the back edge of our model. Let's go back to our model and see that the rear axle hole is off the back of the car, and the front axle hole is lined up over the center of that wheel well. Looking at our examples, we're going to take a circle, and I'm going to hover over the rear edge of our first line and create a circle. And then for the front, we'll find the midpoint. So a little square pops up, and you can see the midpoint constraint. That's the horizontal line with the bubble in the middle, above there. And that creates circles that are vertically aligned with those wheel openings. And then we need to take into account how big are those? Let's make those a 1/4 inch. It's pretty common size, easy for us to work with. Make it a 1/4 inch. And then we need to figure out how high they're going to be and how big are they going to be. Well, these are going to be attached to wheels. So let's draw those wheels, but we don't want to make those wheels part of our chassis. We're going to go ahead and make those construction lines so we can just see how they are and what they relate to each other. And of course, those wheels have to ride on the ground. So I'm going to draw a line that represents the ground. And you notice that I created that intentionally at a really screwy angle. And that angle is like that because I want to make sure that I'm able to move it. Of course, the wheel should contact the ground, so that is the definition of tangent. So I'm going to take the tangent tool and grab the circle and the line, and grab the circle and the line. So now I've got my rear wheel and my front wheel are attached to the ground, and if I can adjust my ride height for my vehicle. So the bigger the wheels, the bigger the space between the ground and the bottom of the wheel, so the bottom of the car. So here's the bottom of the car, here's the ground, and so you can see that as those wheels get bigger and smaller, that ride height changes. I want to have a pretty short ride height, somewhere in the neighborhood of 1/4 of an inch. So it should be 0.25 inches. So I can tweak that by adjusting our wheel sizes. Also, we can adjust the ride height and wheel size by moving the axle holes up and down. We need to make sure that our rear wheel lines up with our motor. So you can see that on our slot car, we've got a motor that provides power to our wheels, and we want, you can see that here, we want the center of the motor to line up with the center of the rear axle. So we're going to sketch this profile, which looks like the end of the motor. I'm going to sketch that right here so we know where it is. And honestly, all we care about is how tall it is. So I'm just going to use the center point rectangle and oversimplify the system. And the height of that motor is 0.586 inches tall. So we just add a dimension to that. 0.586 inches tall. I don't care how wide it is. That really doesn't matter to us. I recognize that our motor isn't square, but that's close enough for what we need. And we don't want that to become part of our model, so I'm going to make that a construction line. Oops. The bottom of our chassis is right here, and we want that center of the motor to line up with the center of the rear wheel. So let's go ahead and get these two centers aligned and use the horizontal constraint. So we'll apply the center point to center point. So now, whenever I move one, the other changes. And then, of course, we want the motor to sit on the chassis. So we'll horizontally constrain the bottom of the motor to the top of the chassis. And now we're in great shape. All we have to do now is figure out the outline of our ribs. And then finish constraining it. When we go ahead and extrude this, you see the holes are already there. I'm going to go at 0.1 inches thick. And change the direction so it goes the other way. Matter of fact, let's turn that chassis on so you can see what the heck we're creating. And finish the check. So that's what it takes to get that figured out. You want to go ahead and go in and go back into the model and tweak your sketch to make it the exact size you're looking for. You can refer to your drawings, and you can refer to the other parts in the model to get the correct sizes. As always, have fun and keep being awesome.